All right. Hey, and good morning, everybody. It's Sherman Ray, and this is the Livin in Vegas podcast, where we talk to you about the people, the places, the trends, and the events that shape the city of Las Vegas. When you think of living in Vegas, folks, think living local and the return of cool. Wow, it is Friday, folks. I'm excited about being on the show today. And as many of you know, it's kind of the new format right now where we are now we're live streaming to YouTube, which is pretty cool. I kind of dig that. And I'm just making sure that the show is actually up and running and stuff like that. So let's see where we're at on this whole thing. Um, so I'm looking right now. Oops, looks like everybody wants to get a hold of me early this morning too. Um, so we want to thank you all for being a part of the show today, and I'm just making sure. Got to make sure we're up. Okay, looks like we're live. Looks like we're live. All right, good. All right, so if you would like to get in on the chat, folks, definitely do that. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today. Don't worry about it, though, folks. We will try to do all we can to actually get the stream up and to make sure. Let's see. That's how we do this. Okay. I usually have the chat in front of me here, and I don't have the chat in front of me. I've got it someplace over here off in the netherworld. But we'll get that running also. Yeah, there it goes. So, if you would like to chat with me, that's great. The stuff we're going to talk about today, this might be of interest to you. I'm hoping it is. I'm pretty sure it will be. That, especially because of the very nature of what we're going to talk about here today. So, I want to make sure that you get in on this. For those of you, this might be the first time you're checking out the show. I'm Sherman Ray. I'm the publisher of Livin in Vegas magazine. This is we love the magazine. This is actually the last time you'll actually get to see Mr. Nathan Hall. Well, maybe he'll advertise with us again. We're probably going to reserve the front of the magazine for stuff that we want to see up there even more. So this might be the last time you get to see anybody else on the front page other than stuff that we are really passionate about. So thank you, Nathan, for being a part of that and making history with the Livin in Vegas crowd. We That magazine comes out quarterly, so the next one's actually coming out tomorrow. Yay! Yeah, the first. So the first it's coming out, which you've got to check this out. And we also produce Livin Weekly magazine, and I'm going to turn this off because if not, for some reason, oh, I know who it is. We also publish Livin Weekly magazine. One of my writers said to me, they said, "Hey Sherman, what's going on with the magazine? You haven't had a magazine out for a couple of weeks now." Got busy, and that's one of the reasons why my phone keeps dinging. So I'll tell you what happened with the magazine and with all the stuff that we're doing. So because we do the show and we do a few other things. I'm also a pastor here in Las Vegas locally. We've been getting a lot of calls to do a lot of live engagements, which means that I'm taking out of doing my normal editing job and my normal journalistic pursuits. One of the people who just called me up, her name is Julie. Julie is the one of the co-founders of an organization called Nevadans Can, or the Nevadans Citizen Action Network. And they do a thing on educational reform here in Las Vegas. And this week, I was there with them all week long. All week long, working with them. And we did a couple of forums where we had about 6 to 12, no, there were close to 10 candidates because there were 6 on either one of them. And I think 2 of them were the same. So there were about 10 candidates that we had that were a part of this educational forum. And just fantastic. A great capacity crowds at both of them. More questions than we actually had time for, which was just, it was fun. We had such a great time with these. And what that meant, though, is basically that I just couldn't get to a lot of my regular duties with living in Vegas, which kind of throws you off. It really does. It throws you off because I'm used to writing a lot of articles and doing a lot of stuff like that. So very interesting stuff, but we'll get back to it. So don't worry about it, folks. We will actually get back to it, and you'll see some of the stuff that we normally do back up on the page. And some of our advertisers going, hey, Sherman, we want you to put out your newsletter a little bit more too. Fear not, folks. We'll get that back up there too. All right. So before we get going here, folks, let's pay a couple of bills, and we'll be back with a little bit more of the show. And you can actually check it out, which we'll be very excited about. I'm very excited. Hi, everybody. It's Sherman Ray for Livin in Vegas podcast. Are you a business owner that's looking to get the word out about his product, service, or even just a great message out there? Well, we'd like to give you that opportunity by being a guest on Livin in Vegas podcast. It's super simple. All you've got to do is contact us at advertising@livininvegas.com. That's advertising@livininvegas.com, and we'll schedule you for an interview on Livin in Vegas podcast. I'm Sherman Ray for Livin in Vegas podcast, where we talk about the people, the places, the trends, and the events that shape the city of Las Vegas. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Interesting though. So I was looking on my phone here, folks. There was a I don't know if I can even, if you'll even see this. Let's see if you can actually see this. Let's see if you can you see that? Can you guys all see that? That was the educational forum that we were at this week. That was one of them. As you can see, it's capacity crowd. The other one was even bigger than that, which is really fun. And so I'm the little Jamaican guy in the corner. So thank you. And on that message string, people are starting to thank us for what we're doing. I really think it's going to be something that more and more people are talking about more and more. So just hang in there. So let's talk about this really quick before we get too far. We're going to talk about the Clark County School District, but today we're also going to talk about Robert Tellis. So that's really the big thing about this show today. We're going to be talking about Robert Tellis, who got arrested. Many of you know all about that. But let's start off by talking about the Clark County School District and how the Vegas Chamber is endorsing an initiative that would give people the option to opt out of the Clark County School District. As some of you know, the Clark County School District, which is the 5th largest in the nation, we have a dubious honor of being one of the worst performing school districts in the nation. We average 49th out of 50. Consistently, we've been that way for years, probably close to a decade. And as a result of it, folks, people are getting pretty upset. And so Boulder City, which is part of Clark County, here in the southern part of the state, has opted to opt out of the Clark County School District. So they're going to have to take a vote on it, and we'll see how that works out. But also, here in Las Vegas, the Vegas Chamber, which is the largest chamber of commerce in Southern Nevada, and probably the state, has said that there's an initiative that's going around, and what was the name of the initiative? It's called the Community Schools Initiative. And the Community Schools Initiative would allow municipalities and cities to opt out of the Clark County School District. And the Vegas Chamber said, well, what does it matter about us? Well, it matters because of education and because of jobs. People do not want to bring their kids to a school that is just an underperforming school. And they just won't move here because of that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why our medical district has not flourished. It's not that we don't have the people. We got a lot of people here. It's just that doctors don't want to bring their kids to a city where the educational opportunities and the cultural and all those things, that the amenities that make a city are lacking here in Las Vegas. So we have a lot of casinos. There's no doubt about it. We have a lot of casinos. But we don't have a lot of museums. We don't have a lot of cultural things that people who are educated want to see. Theaters, that kind of stuff. Libraries. We have a few libraries, no doubt about it. And I can tell you where they're at, which is a problem, because if I can tell you where they're at, there's not enough of them. Okay? So these people want more. And so the Vegas Chamber says, look, we We believe that the Clark County School District needs to be broken up. We endorse the idea for municipalities and cities to opt out of that. Okay. And the funny thing about it is Jesus Jara, who is our superintendent of schools, just got high marks for being for his job performance. So he's been on the job for close to 5 years now, 4 or 5 years. Since 2019 for sure. So since 2019 he's been on the job. And he has given us, we've bumped up in our rankings by what, 2 places? And then but overall we're still 49th. So in one area of our school district we're doing fine, but the rest of we're still averaging just in the toilet. So it's just, we've got to do something about it, and if we don't do something pretty soon, it's going to get really bad. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our main topic. Let's take a break here. I'm going to drink a little bit of coffee, and then we'll talk about our main topic here today, okay? Hang on. Okay. Many of you know that just a couple of weeks ago, by a man by the name of Robert Tellis, Telles. He's a little crap. I would say something else, but I'm not a cussing man. He was the public administrator for Clark County. He won that election in 2019, I believe, something like that. And he was running again to continue on to his seat, and there's a guy by the name of Jeff German, who is a reporter for the Review-Journal, wrote some scathing stories about him. Not anything that was not true, but they were scathing nonetheless. One of them involved an adulterous affair that Mr. Tellis had with one of the people he knew. And this retelling and this exposing Mr. Tellis did this guy no help. It's not helping him at all, especially because Tellis is running for office again, as I said. Well, fast forward now, Mr. Tellis is now blamed of being the murderer of Mr. German. And so now everybody's coming out of the woodwork telling stories about the office and the work environment that was a part of the Tellis work office. And this story, which we will post on our website at livinandvegas.com, it's a story from Darcy Spears, who normally does dirty dining, that kind of stuff, but she was able to really get a great interview with one of the employees. Her name is Janelle, and she tells a story. Her name is Janelle Lee, and she tells a story that is just scathing about Tellis. Now, many of you have heard this already, but I've met Mr. Tellis before. He was representing a former business partner of mine a few years back, a former business partner who ran for mayor, as a matter of fact, and he didn't make it. It's just a shame. I know it sounds catty, but he was a crap too. So those two actually, if I were I won't say it. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I was going to say something that I was going to regret. But two peas in a pod. Tellis and this other guy, who I won't mention. Tellis was the attorney for my former business partner, and when I met him, I didn't like him then. And then when I found out he was running for office, I really didn't like him because I knew the guy was a crap. You know, some people you just know are craps. And as a matter of fact, it reminded me of a guy who was running at the same time that I was running, and I won't mention his name either. But part of my reason why I lost my bid for to run for office is because we diverted some of our funds to actually do whatever we could to make sure this other guy did not win. Okay. To my, I had to make a choice whether I was going to, and I'm not, folks, don't make, this is going to sound like I'm altruistic and I'm just holier than thou, but that's not what it was. It was a strategic move that I knew that the chances for me winning were maybe iffy, but my chances for making sure this other guy didn't win were a lot better because I could definitely do something to his election chances. And some people are just terrible. And that's what this other guy was. That's what Robert Tellis was. The people of Las Vegas made the mistake, though, and they voted for Tellis anyways, and he became a public administrator. According to this article by, once again, Darcy Spears, Janelle Lee said that Robert Tellis was a crap. Just not a crap. His work environment was so toxic that people were saying, look, I just can't be here. She said she actually had to go to the hospital. This lady, Janelle, she said she had to go to the hospital. She had to take a couple of months off of work because the work environment was so toxic that he would say things that he would, if you didn't eat lunch with him, he got upset at you. He was like Jekyll and Hyde. And, this is really kind of, they had one area, they said one of the worst incidents Janelle witnessed took place at the public administrator's office in an area called The Vault. So let me stop right now. If you have a place in your office that's called The Vault, it's either got to be a very important place or it's going to be a very scary place. In this place, The Vault was a secure warehouse where high-value items are stored after someone dies until the relatives are located. She said there was one individual who started to separate herself from the group just for her own sanity. Okay, there was a girl, a lady in the office. She said, I watched her deteriorate in personality. Oh my God. And he said to her, one day you're going to end up like all these people in the vault. This is Tellis who said this to his employees. He said, one day you're going to end up like all the people in the vault, dead and alone. What? Are you kidding me? He said it to one of his employees because this person didn't want to be a part of the group. Didn't want to have lunch with them, said, no, you know what, I can work with you here and I can compartmentalize this, but I'm not spending the entire day with you. There's not way. And that's terrible. She said that Tellis directed his wrath at her sometimes. And, he was like Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes he was really happy jazz hands. The other times he was just like a real piece of work. And this is just kind of a telling story. So you got to read this story. It's a very long story. There's no doubt about it. It's a very long story. Even if it weren't big print, it would still be very, very long story. But in essence, what it said was that Tellis, at the height of his, paranoia, he was blaming people for everything. He would tell people, oh, I know what your Twitter account looks like. What the heck does that mean? Come on. Can you imagine that? Your employer saying, I'm spying on you because I think you're saying something about me? Well, this happened just about the same time that Sherman was found dead. They're looking for somebody, and they said Tellis clammed up. He got really paranoid. And people could tell there was something going on with this guy. So, this is very interesting. Okay, so you definitely want to read this story. It's very good. Congratulations, Darcy Spears, for the article, and because people need to know about this. They really do. They just need to know about what's going on with their city. Okay, let's how much time do I have? I got 10 minutes. Oh, good. I got plenty of time. All right, let's take a real quick break, folks. One more time. We'll take just one more quick break, and we'll be back with more of Living in Vegas. I'm Sherman Ray. We'll talk to you in just a second. Hi, everybody. It's Sherman Ray for Livin in Vegas podcast. Are you a business owner that's looking to get the word out about his product, service, or even just a great message out there? Well, we'd like to give you that opportunity by being a guest on Livin in Vegas podcast. It's super simple. All you got to do is contact us at advertising@livininvegas.com. That's advertising at livinginvegas.com, and we'll schedule you for an interview on Livin in Vegas podcast. I'm Sherman Ray for Livin in Vegas podcast, where we talk about the people, the places, the trends, and the events that shape the city of Las Vegas. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Okay. All right, and we are back, folks. I'm Sherman Ray, and I'm the publisher of Lovin in Vegas magazine. We come to you Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now we're live on YouTube, which is great. So you can tell all your friends to come on the show. And many of you may ask why we're now live on YouTube. Well, for some reason, our friends over at Facebook think that I'm a danger to... I don't understand that. Folks, I'm actually a very nice guy, very warm fuzzball guy. I did post and some of you know this already, I'm a very political person. I am very political. But there are places for my political views. And so I have a political site that I am a part of, or a group that I'm a part of. And I posted something on that group a year ago. It was actually September. It was over a year ago. It was September 6th of 2021 that I posted something on Facebook. And Facebook didn't like it, but, that's their issue. It wasn't pornography. There was no cussing in it. There was none of that. It was a picture of Hunter Biden and his sister. Okay, neither one of them were naked. Were they tasteless? Yes, it was tasteless, but it was not pornographic. I've seen pornography on Facebook. I mean, pornography. And people are they're sending you stuff, and they're saying, hey, join my group, and pornograph, that kind of stuff. I was not posting anything pornographic. And yet, Facebook in their wisdom said, you know what? We don't like what you're posting. And so we're going to restrict your account for 30 days. Ha! So, my job is not to worry about what Facebook is going to do. My job is to talk to you about the things that I think are important. And so we're going to continue. So we'll just go around, and we just won't post to Facebook. What we were doing is we were actually giving them content for their site, their platform. We won't do that anymore. Which dovetails into another story, folks. So the House approved an antitrust bill targeting the big tech dominance. 4 companies in particular that they're really eyeing on: Apple, Google, Amazon, and Meta, which is Facebook. You can change your name to whatever you want, but you're still the same company. And what the bill is basically doing is it's saying, hey, look, we are tired of you guys going around buying these smaller companies. Or in Amazon's case, Amazon, what they've done is, and I heard this from an employee from Amazon, is what Amazon will do is they'll allow you to come on their platform and sell your wares, okay? Sell your wares. And then what they'll do is they will find who you are getting your product from. They'll undercut you by going to that distributor or that that manufacturer and saying, hey, we want an exclusive on this product. And then they come back and undercut you, or they buy that particular product in bulk and undercut you by $1, 20 cents, or whatever it is. You can't afford to go that low, and they just wait you out, and you go out of business. So Amazon is a mofo, just terrible. I mean, come on, man. And I buy stuff from Amazon. I'm really, as a former retailer, as a former business owner, I believe one of the worst things that's ever happened to retail is Amazon. I just do. They should call them parasite, is really what they should call them. Because they have basically cut out an entire swath of our supply chain, and that is the distributor who normally would go from, let's say, from a manufacturer to a distributor, retailer out to you. Amazon has become that guy, that retailer distributor. Not only have they done that, but they've just, if you are in their way, they will buy you out or they will undercut you, and that's it. And because they've created such a huge supply chain, people, you can't compete with them, which is terrible. That's one of the things that the legislators are looking at. They're looking at ways of stopping them from doing that, and so I've got a little bit of problem with it in that I'm a capitalist, I'm a free market guy, that I believe the best product should be able to do whatever it does, and I think it will stifle innovation. But in this case, it was like back in the early 1920s, I believe, 30s, where Ma Bell, okay, the big Bell telephone folks, had basically had a monopoly on all telephone lines throughout the United States. I mean, this is not like a few places. It's across. They put in all the trunk lines all the way across the United States. And so you could not make a phone call unless you were using a Bell, going through Bell Labs. And what the federal government came in, they broke them up. They broke up Bell Labs and created Baby Bells, which that's where you came up with the term Baby Bells. And you came up with smaller telephone companies. They were still using the Bell trunk line, or their main highway of getting the sound to getting telephone lines up. But at least you had other players to bring down the cost of of your telephone lines. Now you have cell things. Same thing. It's the very same thing. Most everybody uses the same fiber optic lines. They just sell T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, all of them use probably the same trunk line, but you have different companies. And so they're really thinking about doing the same thing with the tech companies, because the tech companies are basically saying, hey, look, either you use my stuff or you don't use anything. It's just terrible. Meta is doing the exact same thing. They're buying up companies right and left or driving people out of business. The same thing with Google, Amazon, as we mentioned before, and Apple. Only difference between Apple is that unless you're using a Mac product, Apple really doesn't want to have anything to do with you. So they've just basically covered the whole Mac line, okay, which is not PC. So that's so very interesting, and I hope that they're able to do something to help out the small guy. And here, before we leave, I've got 1 minute left, folks, and this is actually kind of a cutesy story. Hopefully, you have you were not part of the big grasshopper event. There are, and some of you know this already, that when it rains, we have these monsoons, the critters come out. It could be cicadas, it could be grasshoppers, it could be anything that flies. And in this case, it was grasshoppers. My grandson and my daughter were actually attacked by like a bazillion of them. And these Hispanic guys saw them being attacked by this swarm, this big ball of grasshoppers that were flying around. And it was funny until it happened to them. They were screaming like little girls, oh, oh, that they were getting attacked by these grasshoppers. Well, out in Pahrump, same thing happened. Okay, it happened out in Pahrump. They think that there was a swarm of about 45 million grasshoppers came from Vegas over to Pahrump, or maybe from Pahrump to Vegas, and they're all over the place. Don't worry, folks. They'll be gone. They'll be gone probably in a day or so. Okay, I remember seeing this back in 2013, something like that, maybe 10 years ago, where we went to a gas station and they were everywhere. I mean, just everywhere. You drove up to the gas pump. I know it's going to sound gross. Critter. As you're driving over them, you get out of your car. You try not to step on them because they're not going anyplace. They were there before you were there, probably years before. That was probably their little spawning ground where they met chicks. You know how they are. Grasshoppers love chicks. And that's where they were at, and they will be here when we're all gone. They will still be there. Okay, they're going to come back there every year to do their thing. Okay, they're looking for chicks. It's just the way it is. Anyways, folks, this is it. We're done. We will see you again Monday for another edition of Livin in Vegas magazine, the podcast. I'm your host, Sherman Ray, where we'll talk about the people, the places, the trends, and events that shape the city of Las Vegas, folks. When you think of living in Vegas, think living local and the return of cool. We'll see you again next week. Monday 8:30 for the Livin in Vegas podcast. Bye-bye.